and the cold hush before dawn, when even the restless wind seems to hesitate. There exists a moment where truth and legend blend into the same trembling breath, and today we step directly into that uncanny threshold. Welcome, dear traveler, to the Unveiled Scroll. Before we unravel the shadows behind the forsaken Codex, tap the like button, subscribe, and share this journey so more souls may walk with us through forgotten corridors of history. Now, let us begin the tale known as the Forsaken Codex, that unraveled a cataclysm buried beneath empires. The story opens in the winter of 1692, when the continent groaned under the weight of rising kingdoms and quiet collapses, and when scholars still whispered of knowledge too perilous to name. Among them was Elias Dornwell, a man whose mind was as sharp as the creaking quill he carried everywhere, and whose obsession with lost manuscripts carved deep furrows into his once youthful face. Elias was no mere chronicler. He was a seeker of fractures in time, believing that hidden truths seeped upward like oil through cracked earth. His peers dismissed him, claiming he wandered too freely between reason and superstition. Yet even the harshest critics admitted there was something unsettling in how his predictions, crop failures, political shifts seemed to manifest with unnerving accuracy. But even Elias, in all his fervor, could not have foreseen what awaited him the night he first encountered the Codex. It began with a letter sealed in wax the color of dried blood. No courier claimed it, no mark of origin adorned the envelope. Only his name, written in elegant Gothic script that curled like smoke. Inside, the message read, "The truth you seek has always been seeking you. Follow the northern lights to the ruins beneath the sleeping mountain. Bring no one. Speak to no one." The Codex stirs. Elias felt the words grip his spine with icy fingers. He had spent years tracing rumors of a manuscript said to predate every known empire, a text rumored to hold prophecies so dire that kings burned entire libraries to silence them. Some called it myth, others called it cursed. Elias called it destiny. His journey led him into the hostile north, where the skies seemed permanently bruised by storms and where travelers rarely returned without frostbite or madness. Yet he pressed onward, guided by ghostly ribbons of green light that shimmered across the heavens like the breath of some ancient celestial beast. After days of wandering through snowfields that stretched endlessly in all directions, he arrived at the mountain the letter described. It rose like a titan frozen mid-roar, its crags jagged as broken teeth. Beneath it lay ruins swallowed by centuries of ice, their architecture eerily unlike any known civilization. The stones bore symbols that twisted the eye, shapes that seemed simple at first glance, yet grew more elaborate. The longer one stared, as if the carvings themselves resisted being understood. Elias descended into the ruin's heart, clutching a lantern whose flame trembled violently, as though recoiling from the oppressive stillness. Then he found it. A solitary pedestal of obsidian so polished it reflected not the lantern's light, but something darker, something that shifted with a slow, serpentine grace. Resting upon it was the Codex, bound in leather hardened by age, its surface etched with sigils that pulsed faintly like a heartbeat beneath skin. Elias reached out, expecting a chill, but instead felt warmth unnatural, almost sentient. A whisper formed in his mind, not in any language he recognized, yet perfectly understood. "You were meant to open me." His breath tangled in his throat. He flipped to the first page, and the air around him tightened with invisible force. The ink moved. Lines rearranged themselves like living tendrils, weaving new passages from old bones. What he read defied logic, yet resonated with the grim rhythm of inevitability. A chronicle of empires undone not by war or famine, but by an unseen tide that rose whenever humanity strayed too far into the forbidden. The Codex described events that had already occurred with startling precision. Elias knew well, but then it continued beyond his time, painting a grim tapestry of horrors that had yet to come. One prophecy struck him with paralyzing dread. It spoke of a silent cataclysm, a moment when nations would crumble under the weight of their own forgotten sins, when the ground would split to release something ancient and patient, and at the center of it, a scholar driven by curiosity, whose discovery would ignite the chain of events that led the world to its shattering. Elias realized with dawning terror that the Codex was writing him into its pages. He wasn't reading history. He was becoming part of it. His lantern flickered violently as a deep rumble echoed across the chamber. The mountain groaned as if stirring from centuries of slumber. Panic clawed through Elias as he attempted to shut the book, but the pages refused to move, anchored by some unseen force. The ink began to spread, branching outward like veins, creeping along the pedestal. The floor, his boots, the ruin shuddered. For the first time in years, Elias felt the unmistakable presence of Fira. Primal, corrosive. He realized the Codex had never been lost. It had been sealed away, hidden, bound, because the world was safer when it slept. And now, by opening it, he had awakened something that was never meant to stir again. That night, the northern lights dimmed as though recoiling from the mountain's awakening, and across the kingdoms, strange omens began to manifest. Fields withering overnight, animals fleeing south in terrified herds, rivers turning the color of tarnished silver. Scholars across distant capitals felt an inexplicable chill, as if some ancient equilibrium had been broken. Meanwhile, Elias, clutching the Codex, fled the collapsing ruins, unaware that every step he took carried within it the tremor of an approaching catastrophe. And this was only the beginning. In the nights that followed, Elias wandered southward like a man fleeing his own shadow. Yet no distance could free him from the Codex's grasp. The manuscript pulsed faintly with each heartbeat, as though synchronizing with his very soul, and its pages, once dormant, now churned with new ink that wrote itself in frantic bursts. He knew he could not return to the scholarly circles he once called home. The Codex had marked him, and those who sought to exploit forbidden knowledge would sense its awakening like wolves catching the scent of blood. Still, he pressed onward, driven by a desperate conviction that if he could decipher the remaining prophecies, he might find a way to halt the silent cataclysm. His journey brought him to the ancient city of Arithrim, a metropolis of towering spires and labyrinthian archives, where knowledge was guarded with a zeal bordering on religious devotion. Elias sought refuge with an old friend, set up in Bale, a historian with a gaze sharp enough to dissect secrets and a voice calm enough to steady even the most frantic mind. When Elias revealed the Codex to her, Seraphine recoiled as though witnessing a ghost woven from forbidden scripture. Yet, she listened, her disbelief slowly curdling into dread as the evidence mounted before her eyes, the ink that shifted like living shadows, the warmth that radiated unnaturally from the cover, the way the pages seemed to breathe. Seraphine insisted they destroy it, but Elias refused, claiming destruction might trigger consequences even worse. Instead, he begged her to help decode its shifting passage. Reluctantly, she agreed, driven by loyalty and a creeping sense that fate had entwined her into this dark unfolding. Together, they spent sleepless nights poring over symbols that resisted interpretation, comparing them with ancient tablets, fragmented scrolls, and forbidden texts locked deep within Arithrimi's archives. Each revelation carved deeper cracks into their sanity. The Codex's prophecies had guided civilizations for millennia, shaping the rise and fall of empires with silent precision. And now, it had chosen Elias as its new conduit, its herald, its unwilling scribe. One night as Seraphine traced a set of symbols glowing faintly across a page, she froze. Her voice trembled as she whispered that the silent cataclysm was no metaphorical disaster. It was a literal awakening. The earth itself held something ancient beneath its crust, something that stirred whenever the balance of power tipped us far toward hubris and unchecked ambition. According to the Codex, the last awakening occurred before any recorded civilization, erasing entire continents and resetting the course of humankind. Worse yet, the Codex detailed the exact moment the next awakening would commence, and the date was perilously soon. Elias felt the weight of inevitability crushing his chest. The Codex had not merely predicted catastrophe, it was orchestrating it. Every step he had taken since opening the manuscript, every thought he entertained, every fear he whispered aloud, was being woven into the prophecy with cold precision. He realized they had little time left. Their only hope lay in a cryptic line hidden near the manuscript's end. The one who awakened the tide may quell it, but only where the earth remembers its first breath. Seraphine deduced this, referred to the ancient fissure beneath the sleeping mountain deep, very place Elias first found the Codex. With urgency clawing at their heels, they embarked northward, traveling through lands now warped by ominous changes. Forests aged a century in days. The sky flickered with colors unseen by mortal eyes. Villagers spoke of tremors that whispered like voices rising from beneath the ground. As they reached the mountain, a storm brewed overhead, twisting the heavens like molten iron. Elias descended into the ruin once more, now transformed into a churning labyrinth of shifting stone and pulsating light. Seraphine followed close behind, clutching a lantern that sputtered futilely against the darkness. At the pedestal where the Codex once rested, Elias felt the mountain tremble with anticipation. He opened the manuscript, and as the pages unfurled like wings, a torrent of wind roared through the chamber. The Codex's heartbeat quickened. The ink surged. The earth split beneath them, revealing a vast chasm glowing with an otherworldly radiance. A voice echoed not spoken, but felt. It warned that attempting to seal the awakening demanded a sacrifice. The Codex required the life of the one who had stirred it. Elias did not hesitate. He stepped toward the chasm, clutching the Codex to his chest, whispering an apology to Seraphine, to the world, to the histories yet to be written. But Seraphine refused to accept fate's decree. With a cry torn from the depths of her soul, she seized Elias, trying to drag him back. The Codex reacted violently. Pages tore free like razor-edged feathers, swirling around them in a storm of ink and prophecy. The wind howled with ancient fury. The chamber collapsed. And then silence. When the dust settled, Seraphine found herself alone on the cracked stone floor, the Codex lying closed at her feet, its sigils now dark and lifeless. Elias was gone, his sacrifice sealing the fissure and quelling the awakening. Above the mountain, the sky cleared for the first time in months. The world exhaled. Seraphine carried the Codex back to Arithreme, hiding it in the deepest vault, vowing it would never again fall into mortal hands. Yet some nights, when the moon wanes and shadows stretch thin, she swears she can hear faint whispers drifting from the manuscript whispers that sound uncannily like Elias, warning that history remembers everything, and that sleeping forces do not sleep forever. And vitat tirtra vela. We conclude this chronicle. Thank you for walking with me through the somber corridors of the Unveiled Scroll. Until our next journey through forgotten shadows, may your curiosity remain brave and your nights remain peaceful.